Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I was just in Dubai attending an event for the product that we're doing today. We were at the POCO F6 launch event, and today we're looking at the POCO F6 Pro. In the box, you get a SIM ejector tool, documentation, a simple case, the POCO F6 Pro, a 120 watt charging brick. Now it does not come with the North American plugs, it comes with the European plugs. So if you're gonna grab this phone, you're gonna wanna grab some kind of travel adapter, and you get the USB-A to USB-C cable. And this is really indicative of phones that you get from out east. You get the case, you get the charging brick, all the stuff you used to get with phones here, but it just seems to be a very North American thing to charge extra for stuff. So you have 3 lenses on the POCO F6 Pro. You have a 50 megapixel f1.6 camera with optical image stabilization. You've got an 8 megapixel f2.2 ultra wide camera, and you've got a 2 megapixel f2.4 macro camera. I would have rather have seen that camera get swapped out for something like a 12 to 16 megapixel telephoto, but to their credit, POCO has always been more of a performance phone rather than a camera phone.
I decided to say this to media friends a few years ago, and I think it gave a bad rep.
And on the front for your selfie camera, you got a 16 megapixel lens. And get a look at some of the beautiful design on the back of this phone. So this texture is actually called Dark Side of the Moon. That's their black model. The white model is called Light Side of the Moon. The actual texture is supposed to be reminiscent of the moon. And for a little extra style points, they put a small gold inlay into all the lenses. The F6 Pro has an all metal frame with a quad curved glass back, so it is a little bit slick when you're holding it in your hands without a case. But if you want to show off the really cool texture of the back of the phone, you're gonna have to find yourself a transparent case to do it. So the phone weighs 209 grams, which is a lot or a little depending on what you're buying, I guess. And it's got a 6.67 inch WQHD plus 120 hertz flow AMOLED screen with 3200 by 1440 resolution. It comes in at 4000 nits of peak brightness. But let's get into the guts of the phone. The POCO F6 Pro is rocking a Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 chipset with an octa-core Cortex CPU capable of up to 3.19 gigahertz of processing power, and it's cooled by their new Liquid Cool Technology 4.0, which they actually have a metal plate with the liquid on it, which actually flows around circulating the vapor. They've updated their GPU from the Adreno 730 on the F5 Pro to the Adreno 740. It's not the newest GPU on the market by any means, but it's a real step up for them. The POCO F6 Pro has a 5000 milliamp hour battery, so that matches up with Samsung's latest and actually tops Apple's. The POCO F6 Pro runs on Xiaomi's HyperOS, and they've teamed up with Qualcomm to use the Qualcomm AI engine, which we're going to talk a little bit more about in a bit. You got a few options in terms of RAMs and storage. You can get the version with 12 gigabits of RAM in either the 256 gig or 512 gig storage, and the one we got here is the 16 gig model with a terabyte of storage. I'll tell you that the 12 gig version is perfectly servable in pretty much any scenario, but if you're going to be running a lot of apps at once, or if you're going to be doing a lot of hardcore gaming on your phone, then you're going to want the 16 gig version. And if we want to talk about the game performance on here, I played the games that I usually play to test out the phones. I played Genshin Impact, Real Racing 3, and Call of Duty Mobile. And I'll tell you, for a phone that doesn't have the processing power of some of the flagships that I've tested, nor does it have the GPU of the flagships that I've tested, it really performed. Part of that was because of their cooling system. You could feel very obviously that it wasn't getting as hot as some other phones do. And another part is just the phone has been optimized to use what it has really well. I played each game for about a half hour non-stop back to back, and I didn't get so much as a little bit of lag. And now's as good a time as any to talk about the camera. The pictures were good. They weren't spectacular by any means, but they were quite good. And one thing I will say, while it feels limiting to not have a telephoto lens and things like that that you can jump into as you zoom closer and closer, what that's actually giving you is it's making sure that you're always on the main lens. So to give you a good example of this, I was doing some low light tests in Dubai, and I was actually holding my Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra right up against the POCO F6 Pro, and I zoomed in on each of them to match frame as best I could. And I noticed after I was looking at each of the videos that the low light videography was actually a lot better on the F6 Pro. And there was a very good reason for that. Now, while I had to zoom in on each of the cameras to get the framing just right, I was on the same lens on the F6 Pro, but I had to move to the periscope telephoto lens of the S23 Ultra, and that's only f4.9, so it's much worse in low light scenarios. The portrait mode on the camera made the bokeh a little bit more artificial looking than I would have liked, but overall it was a nice shot. With the low light photography between the f1.6 lens and the processing that the actual phone does, it left for some beautiful photos at night. Now, I did say that AI has a big part to play in this phone, so we're going to show you one of the features right now with the AI expansion. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to select one of the photos that I took in Dubai. Got some great photos. Let's have a look at this one. And now if I go into edit and then I hit crop, you're going to see on the left, it's AI expansion. So it's going to give you some options. So it's actually going to let you bring out more there. So you can see by the checkered area how it's going to bring out more stuff, but you can actually create it in different aspect ratios. So let's just, for the sake of argument, make it 9:16. And then if I just hit start, it's going to start to do its own version of the image. And there, I decided to give you some mountains in the background, a weird thing to give you for the desert, but that's a pretty cool idea of what we're looking at. Now, if we go back a little bit and we find some food, let's have a look at this beautiful dessert right here. Now, generally speaking, with Mediterranean style foods, everything is basically sweet with pistachios on it, but that's okay. I like those things. And we're going to do the same thing. So I'm going to go in. We're gonna crop AI expansion. This time we're gonna make this 9x16 a 16x9. Okay, and then we're gonna let it go. And there you go. So it actually gave you more of a plate. It expanded everything out. Now I don't like the way that the fork looks here. It's kind of bendy and weird. So I'm gonna hit try again and we'll see if it can fix it up. And there you go, a much better version. Gave you some side dishes, it straightened out the fork, all sorts of cool stuff. Now, if we look at this photo here, if I want to get rid of some stuff, I'm going to go to the erase, and I'm just going to select remove people, and it's going to start to do some stuff for me right here. And it actually selected out the people. So there's one, gone. There's two, gone. There's three, gone. I apologize to all of them. They were all very nice people, but look how beautiful that is now. That's crazy. And for photography, you also have AI portrait. You can actually collect a lot of photos of yourself or somebody else, and then just put in a prompt, and it'll actually create you as whatever that prompt is. So I got an example while I was actually at the event, and you can see that they're actually quite clean. And then you have things like your AI album search, so you can actually just type in very simple commands, and then things will pop up. So for example, if you put in dance, it would have all the photos with dancing in them. And your AI subtitles, which is really cool because it'll take video that doesn't have subtitles, add subtitles to it, but then it'll also transcribe it for you. And if you ask it to, it'll give you a little bit of a summary, which is a cool tool to have on your phone. And granted, most phones with AI functions now have that. But again, when you find out the price of this phone, you're going to be really excited to have it. There's also a really cool gesture feature that they have now. So let's say, for example, you have Cheeto dust up to your elbows for some reason, and you want to be able to change the volume or pause music or switch between songs or something like that. All you have to do is just with swipes of your hand, you can actually make those things happen. At the event, they did a little bit of a demonstration of this, so you can see that you can easily raise or lower the volume, swipe over to the next or previous song, and even pause the media. So this phone might not be a flagship by the definition of the word, but POCO's been redefining flagship, and they put this phone under what they call performance flagship. But the question is, does it have a flagship price? The POCO F6 Pro starts at $499 US and ranges up to $629 US, which is this one. Again, that's the 1 terabyte, 16 gigs of RAM. That is an incredibly inexpensive phone that honestly gives some of the biggest flagships out there a run for its money. And we'll be honest, it doesn't beat it in most specs and most performance, nor would you expect it to. But for the percentage of the price that you're paying, you're getting a lot more of a percentage of the performance. And it is a great phone. I've had a lot of fun using it over the past few weeks. And if you want something that's even more affordable but still a good phone, the POCO F6 is out there. I'm going to put a link below to my colleague's review of that in CGM. But let me know what you think about the POCO F6 Pro in the comments. And while you're down there, make sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons, hit that notification bell so you know when I have new videos coming out. And while I still have you with me, why don't you stay with me and why don't you check out one of these videos here? And until next time, my friends, let's get to work.